Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is external database and what is in-memory database, right? External database, nothing but the database which we are installing in the separate machine to store our data for a long time. So if you want to store your data for a long time, even though if your application is stopped, then you need to go for external database. So in the market, there are several external databases available like Oracle, MySQL, and MongoDB. So these databases are called as external databases. Even if your application is stopped, the data will be available in the external database. But I want to develop one application. For that application, I want one database. That database is only for a temporary purpose. I want the database only for temporary purpose. When we want the database only for the temporary purpose, then you can go for embedded database, which is also called as in-memory database. So here, if you go for in-memory database, you no need to install anything, you no need to set up anything. So if you run your application, database will be started. If you stop your application, database will be stopped just for temporary purpose. For POC development, we can go for in-memory database. We are using H2 as a in-memory database in our Spring Boot application. So you add H2 dependency, then you configure H2 data source properties in order to work with that. That's it. If you add these properties, when you run your project, database will be started. When you stop your project, database will be stopped. Once the database is available, can we see the tables? Can we see the data available in the database? Yes. For that, we need to go for H2 console. So in order to see this database console, we need a server. So that's why we are adding web starter also. When you add JPA starter, it will create the connection pool to communicate with the database. Whenever you add H2 starter, in-memory database will be created for our application. When you add web starter, embedded server will be provided for our application. All these are coming based on auto configuration in the Spring Boot. Fine. And I have given some assignments also. As of now, in our application development, we are creating a project and we are adding data source properties. When you add the data source properties like this, JPA starter is available. Auto configuration will come. Spring Boot will load those properties, will create the data source object, will create the connection pool in order to communicate with the database. For example, if you want to communicate with two different databases, have you tried that? Have you tried how to communicate with the two different databases? So when you want to communicate with the two different databases, then you need to configure two different data source properties. So I have given a video also. If you see that video, below that video, I have given GitHub repository also. So if you see, source code GitHub link is available. How I developed a application which is going to communicate with two different databases. So you can use one database as a H2 and you can use another database as a MySQL database. So this is the project I have committed to my GitHub repository in the last year. So go through this video and you will understand how can we communicate with two different databases by using Spring Boot application. You need to develop your application like this. You need to create your database configuration classes to communicate with the databases. Okay. So if you have one database, it is easy to deal with that. But when you have more than one database, lot of configuration we need to write in our application. And the second one, export the data to the Excel file. So by using Apache POI API, you can do that. Fine. So assignment, 8 programs I have given, 8 requirements I have given. How many of those requirements completed? 8 out of 8? 5. What about remaining 3? Kab hoga? 7 completed. Good. So what are you feeling when you are trying to do that on your own? What you are getting? Or मुझे गाली दे रहा है ये बंदा कुछ भी नहीं बता रहा everything is giving as assignment. You are scolding me or you are trying? So what do you feel when you are trying that? Confidence मिल रहा है, बढ़ रहा है, पक्का? Self learning. So you need, initial days you will scold me, he is not explaining the things, he is giving assignment. So that importance you will realize later point of time. So if I will can teach, no problem, extra 2-3 days week if I spend, then we can complete all these 8 topics, that's not an issue. But tomorrow when something new comes to your bucket in the company, then you will think about me, hurry, I need to go for the class to learn this concept. But when you are doing the job, coming to the classes is very difficult. So you need to habituate to do the things on your own, research and development. So learn the concept on your own and implement that concept on your own. If you do that process, so tomorrow when new requirement comes, when new task is given to you, then you will not look for me or you will not look for Amirpet. You can look for that solution in the Google and you can implement that solution. So that self-learning is very, very important, guys. So my main intention, I want you to try and learn something new on your own. Good. Today, we are going to learn a concept called Spring Profiles concept. Okay. Another important concept in the real time, that is Spring Profiles concept. Before going to understand Spring Profiles, first let us see what is the problem in the project development and how that problem will be solved by profiles concept in the Spring. Okay, so I can call it as Spring Profiles, or we can call it as Spring Boot Profiles. We can say Spring Boot Profiles concept is available. Before understanding what is this profiles, let us understand what is the problem that we are going to face in the project development. Okay, so we are the developers, one team will be available, let's call it as a dev team. So multiple developers will be available in our project and everybody will work on some task, and all the developers code will be integrated at one place. All the developers code will be integrated at one place. So that is called as repository. So some people will use Git repositories, some people will use Bitbucket repository. Either Git repository or Bitbucket repository will be available, which is called as source code repository server. Developers working from different locations, all the developers code should be integrated at one place. That's where source code repository server comes into picture. Once our code is available in the GitHub repository, then DevOps team comes into picture. Okay, DevOps team will comes into picture. This DevOps team is responsible to build and deploy our code into server. Okay, this DevOps team will take our project code from the GitHub repository. We are developers, we are writing the code in our system. We will test that code. Is it working as expected or not? If our code is working as expected, then that code we will commit into GitHub repository. So that is code integration platform that companies are using in the market. Earlier we used SVN, later GitHub, now Bitbucket. So there are different tools available to integrate all the developers code at one place. Once our code is integrated in the GitHub, DevOps team, operations team is responsible to take that code, build that code, means compile that code, package that code, and deploy that code into server. So that is called build and deployment process. What is the meaning of build? Compile the code. Lot of Java classes will be available. Compile those Java classes. Bytecode will be generated. That bytecode we need to package as a jar file or war file. Standalone project jar file, web application war file. They will do the packaging of our application. Then they will deploy our application to the server. Okay, that is called build and deployment process. Now let me call this is server. Inside the server, our application will be deployed. Who will take care of that deployment process? DevOps team is going to take care of that process. Once they deploy our application to the server, they need to map our application to the domain name. Now, whenever you are running your application in the local, you are getting localhost colon 8080. When you deploy in the server, instead of localhost, IP address colon 8080 to access the project. But in the reality, are we accessing the projects by using IP address? Are we accessing the projects by using IP address? No, we will access the project by using a URL that is called domain. That is called domain. So that a domain mapping also will done by our DevOps team. When our application is running, that application will be mapped to one domain. Then people will access our application by using domain URL. So he is a end user. He is a end user. When this person access this domain, then the request will go to application which is running in the server www.facebook.com. That facebook.com is a domain. When you access that domain, that request will go to your application which is running inside one Linux machine. Inside that Linux machine, our server will be available. So who will take care of this build, deployment, domain mapping? DevOps team will take care of that. What is our responsibility? What is our responsibility? Writing the code, test that code, commit that code to GitHub repository. That was the earlier standard. So 2-3 years back, before COVID up to 2018-19, 90% of the developers don't know how project will be delivered to the client. Developers will know till code commit to the GitHub repository. After code is committed to the GitHub repository, how that code is deployed to the server, how that code is delivered to the client, how that code is mapped to the domain name, that process don't know to 90% of the developers. But in the last 3 years, the requirement got changed. In the companies, developers also should know the operations part. You are not only responsible to write the code, even you need to know operations also. You should know how to build that code. You should know how to deploy that code. You should know how to deliver that code, how to map your code to the domain name. So this knowledge is also required for the developers. In the interview, nowadays they are asking, how do you deliver the project to the client? How do you map your application to the domain name? If you are running your application in one machine, how do you scale your application? If 1 lakh people access your application at a time, how do you manage that load? Okay, what mechanism you will follow to scale up, to scale down your application? Scale up, scale down, nothing but if a more number of requests are coming, servers should be increased. If less number of requests are coming, servers should be decreased. That scaling process, deployment process, domain mapping, every developer should know. So you need to become the all-rounder. So for the developers, operations knowledge is also required. Are you guys getting my point? And here, if you want to see, anybody know how to map project to the domain name? Any idea? Have you ever tried? No. First of all, do you know that there will be a domain for every project? Domain will be available. Have you ever got that question? We learned servlets. Nobody asked me a question. Sir, application we are accessing by using localhost colon 8080, but in the real time, we are accessing gmail.com, facebook.com, flipkart.com, irctc.com. How it is happening? Did anybody ask that question? No. Whatever we are telling, you are just listening. That's it. You are not thinking out of the box. You should get that question, right? You developed one web application. Your web application you can access only in your system. How people will access your web application? How do IP address? But are you accessing the projects using IP address in the real time? Then domain. How to do that mapping? GoDaddy, you can purchase a domain. GoDaddy, Hosting or MilesWeb. There are so many, what I can say, domain registrars are available. There are so many companies who are providing hosting services for you. Okay, so you see here. What is this? 2000 people have seen. They don't know importance of this video. How to point a domain to your website. So I already prepared one video 5 months back. I uploaded to channel within 5 minutes. I explained how to map our application to the domain name. Now this is the video. DNS mapping will be available, guys. DNS nothing but domain naming system. So whatever the application is available, that application should be mapped to the domain name. I created one domain in the AWS with a name called IES.link, something like that. So when I deploy my application in the AWS cloud, this much lengthy URL is coming. Okay, can I give this much lengthy URL to people to access my application? No, I need to map this application to one beautiful URL. So that's why I'm going for the domain. This is the domain I have purchased in the AWS, IES.app.link. I purchased the domain. Then I am mapping my application to the domain. Once I map my application to the domain, you can see the application can be accessed with the domain name. So that lengthy URL, we map it to a short URL, that is called domain mapping. So if you go through this 5 minutes video, you will understand how the domain mapping will happen. Okay, good. So we are trying to understand how this deployment process will happen in the company. So developers will write the code. They will keep the code into Git repository. Then DevOps team will be available. They will take the code from the GitHub. They will do the build process. They will do the deployment process, and they will deploy the project into the server. Then they will map the project to the domain. Then they will deliver the project to the client. So customers will access our application by using domain name. Then the request will be redirected to the server IP address. Then our application will be executed. But here, what we need to understand. Once the developer's code is completed, directly can we deploy the code to the server and deliver to the client? No. Why? Whatever the code we have written, directly build that code, compile that code, deploy that code to the server and deliver to the client? No. Why? Why we don't deliver the code to the client directly? N number of bugs will be available. Proper testing is required. Once the coding is completed, we are not going to once the coding is completed, we are not going to deliver the code to the client directly. So lot of testing will happen in the company. So in order to test our application, we will have some environments, guys. Those are called as application environments. So in the real time, we will be dealing with a concept called application environments. What is environment? What is the meaning of environment? Environment nothing but a platform to run our application. What is the meaning of environment? Environment means a platform to run our application. So in order to run our application, what platform is required? In order to run our application, I need one computer. Okay, I need one computer. Inside that computer, my application will be deployed. Server means boot applications having embedded server. So forget about the server part. Now I need one computer. Inside that computer, I want to run my application. This application should connect with one database. Database will be available in the different machine. Okay, database will be available in one computer and our application will be available in one computer. So the application should connect to the database. Database server in one computer, application running in the another computer. Application should connect with the database. Now here DevOps engineers are responsible to set up these computers with the operating system, install required softwares, install required database, establish network connection between these two computers. So If I have this platform, then only I can run my application. So this is called one environment. In the real time, it is called as one environment. What is the meaning of environment? Environment nothing but a platform to run our application. So what platform? Simple example. If I want to take offline class, I need a platform. I need one room. I need table, one system, projector. Okay. Projector is required. Screen is required. Lights are required. Mic is required. Speakers are required. Amplifier is required. So this is the platform we have prepared to conduct the offline class. Similarly, if you want to run one application, the platform is required. Systems are required, softwares are required, network is required. So if you have that infrastructure, then only you can run one application in the real time. So this is called one platform which is used to run our application. Right. So environment, application environments will be available. Environments are used to test our application. Environments are used to test our application. When the developer's coding is completed, DevOps people will deploy the developer's code into one environment which is called development environment, which is called a dev environment. So what is the meaning of a dev environment? I have one system, company provided one system or laptop for me. This is my local. I will write the code for some functionality. I will test that code. My code is working as expected. Then I will store that code into GitHub repository. Okay, my task is completed. You are also working on the same project. You have done some coding for the project. Your code you have tested. You store it into GitHub repository. Similarly, 10 developers available. Everybody working on the different tasks. They are storing the code in the GitHub repository. The code which is working in my system, only my functionality available, my classes, my methods available. But now in the GitHub, 10 developers code is integrated. When the 10 developers code is integrated, there is a chance that some functionalities will break. There is a chance that because of your code, my functionality may not work. Because of my code, your functionality may not work. Because of the 10th developer code, the remaining 9 developers code will not work. Those are called code integration issues. When all the developers code is integrated at one place, there is a chance of getting some integration issues. There is a chance of failing the functionality. So that's why what we do is first we write the code, we test that code into our system. Once the testing is completed in our system, code will go to the GitHub. From the GitHub, DevOps team will deploy the code into dev environment. So what is the meaning of a dev environment? Dev environment is nothing but a platform where we can run our application for the testing purpose. All the developers code will be integrated in the GitHub. All the developers code will be deployed into dev environment where all the developers will test their functionality working as expected or not. Before integration, working in our system. After integration, is it working or not? So that is testing we are going to do in the dev environment. In the separate computer, our application will be deployed. A separate database will be available to test our application. This is called dev environment. So there is a chance of getting some bugs in the dev environment. We will fix those bugs and we will redeploy the application to dev environment, and again we will do the testing. That is called developer integration testing. So in the dev environment, developers are going to test that functionality is working as expected or not. Once the developer testing is completed, then we should give the project to software testing team. As a developer, I will do testing in my system. When I am doing the testing in my system, only my code will be tested. When I integrate that code in the GitHub, other developers code also available. That code we are deploying into dev environment. Then all the developers again will test their code is working as expected or not in the integrated environment. That is called developer integration testing, which is also called as DIT. DIT. Who will perform this DIT? Developers in the dev environment. Once the developer testing is completed in the DIT, then same application, same code will be deployed to one more environment, which is called SIT environment, which is called as a SIT environment. SIT environment will be used by testing team for quality assurance. Okay, developers tested, developers are saying that okay, code is working as expected, but as a developer, always we will test the code with the positive mindset. I have written this code, it will work. Login, valid username, valid password, yes, we are able to log in, login is working. Logout is working. But the testers, what the testers will do? Testers will think with the negative mindset. Developers will think with the positive mindset. Testers should have negative mindset. What is the duty of the tester? What is the duty of the tester? Tester's duty is to identify where is the mistake in the project. So to identify the mistakes in the project, they need to start with the negative mindset. Developer will test with positive mindset. That means all happy paths we are going to test. Valid username, valid password, login. Login is working. Okay, happy. Then go to dashboard. Data is coming. Happy. Click on logout. Login page is coming. Yes, my testing is completed. But tester, they will give valid username, invalid password, login. Invalid username, valid password, login. Enter username, password incorrect, login. Enter username, password, click on enter button, login is happening. Like this, they will come up with the different scenarios to identify mistakes in the application. Okay, so in order to give our application to the testers, we are going to give separate environment, that is called SIT environment. SIT nothing but software integration test, system integration testing. Basically, DIT means developer integration testing. SIT means system integration testing, which will done by testers, to identify the mistakes. Here, development systems, development environment is different. SIT environment is different. For the development environment, one computer, one database is available. When it comes to the SIT environment, another computer, another database will be available. Database servers will be different. Database credentials will be different. Why? Because suppose if there is a problem, in our application, if everybody using the same database, testers are saying that I am trying to update one record in the database, record is not updated. Then suppose if you want to escape from that issue, you can go to the database directly, you will update in the database. Developers can do the direct update in the database also, but we don't want to allow such kind of update operations. So that is the reason, as a developer, we will not have write permission for the SIT database. Simple example. Today, there is a critical bug in the project. We are trying to update one record in the table. It is not updating through the code. A big discussion is happening. Testers are saying that bug is there in the code. The data is not updating in the database. See, I am updating my number. It is not updating. So what we can do secretly? Go to database, execute one update query. Yes or no? Then what we will tell? See, data is updated. So people can do such kind of things also. That is the reason in the companies what they will do. For developers, one environment will be available. For testers, one environment will be available. As a developer, you can do anything in the dev environment. It is for your testing purpose only. But what about SIT environment, SIT database? It is dedicated for the project testing. That will be used by the testers. As a developer, you cannot insert the data, you cannot update the data in the testing database. You can only read the data. So developer database is different, tester database is different. When my application is running in the dev environment, it will connect to one database. For this database, username, password, IP address will be different. When I go for SIT environment, separate another database will be available with the different username, password, URL will be available. Then once the SIT environment testing is completed, the same application we need to deploy into one more environment, which is called UAT environment. What is that, guys? UAT environment for client testing. Okay. Before giving the project delivery to the client, we will give the project to the UAT. Nothing but user acceptance testing. So we will tell to the client, boss, our development completed, our testing completed, we are ready for the project delivery. Before taking the delivery, just to do one round of testing, you just confirm everything is working as expected or not. If everything is working, client will say go. Go means production. Suppose if a client identified some problems in the project, then it is no go. So in the industry, go will be available, no go will be available. Once the UAT testing is completed successfully, client will say go. If a client is giving a go, that is a big celebration for the company, because our project is accepted by the client. We are going to deliver that project. Whenever you get the mail from the client saying that to go, that day company will give the party for the team members, because last 2 months of work or last 2 years of work, whatever we are doing, client accepted our work. So that is a go. If it is a go, client is accepting the project delivery. If a project is delivered, client will pay the money for the company. Company will give party for the employees. Are you getting my point? For example, in the UAT, if there are some problems, then client will send a email, no go. If a client is sending the email as a no go, then what will happen? You will sit in the office for 2 to 3 days without coming to the home also. They will make you to sit in the office in the war room. We have to identify why this problem is occurred. Then, if there is a no go for the project, the first people, the company will catch testing team first. Beta aa jao. Client identified these mistakes in the project. Client identified these mistakes in the project. Why you are not able to find these mistakes in the SIT? What you have tested? Why you are not able to find out these mistakes in the testing environment? As you guys not tested properly, our project has no go. So if the project is no go, who will be affected first? Developers are safe. Why? भाई मैं आपको दिया था टेस्टिंग करने के लिए, आप अच्छे से टेस्टिंग नहीं किया था, इसलिए बग्स आ रहा है यूएटी पे. वी कैन एस्केप इजीली, राइट? So if there is a no go for the project, right, company management will call all the testing team, come here, who tested this functionality, why you are not able to identify this problem, you are not doing the testing properly. PIP. So do you know what is PIP? Performance improvement program. I'm keeping you in the PIP. Within 2 months or within 1 month, if you don't improve your performance, you will lose your job. Because of your testing, today we got the bugs in the UAT. Client is not happy with our work. We lost our impression at the client side. So it is a big remark for the project team members when there is a no-go from the client. When there is a no-go from the client, it is a big remark for the project team. So that is the reason multiple rounds of testing will happen in the company before giving the project to the UAT. When the UAT is going on, managers will work for 18 to 20 hours in the project, because if there is a bug in the UAT, first management will catch the manager. Who is the manager for this functionality? Who is the team lead for this functionality? Who is the tester for this functionality? At the last, who is the developer for this functionality? So they will try to start from the top level to bottom level. They will screw everybody in the project if there is a bug in the UAT. If there is a simple example, you purchased one car. So you are taking the car delivery. Before taking the car delivery, you are taking the test drive. When you start the test drive, engine blasted. When you are going for the car test drive, engine blasted, then will you trust that company? Will you go for that brand? Immediately you will write a review. So today is my car delivery at 11 o'clock. I have taken the car for test drive at the 10:30, engine blasted. within 1 hour, it will become viral in the social media. Definitely that company stocks will reduce, company business will reduce. Yes or no? Same concept. When we are giving a project to the delivery, before giving the delivery to the client, we will give the project to the UAT. So that UAT nothing but user acceptance testing. Who will do that UAT? Our testers. If our testers do UAT, what will happen? Developer tester bye bye ho jata bhai. There is a problem. Don't touch that functionality. If you touch it, you will screw up. So like that, the people will do the dealings. That is the reason UAT will not happen in our company. UAT will not done by our testers. And to improve the quality, for very big applications, development will done by one company, testing will done by another company. Development and testing happen in the same company. Some quality matters, quality issues will occur because we are friends, right? So we will tell to the tester, don't report the bug. Developer will say that, don't touch that functionality. Let us see. If a client identify, then we can fix it. So that quality will be impacted in the project. So that's the reason in the industry, development will happen in one company, testing UAT will happen in the another company. If UAT happened in the another company, what will happen? Why client will give development to one company, UAT to another company? Quality. What now? It happened with me also. When I was working for the Deloitte company, so Deloitte is a big four company. So do you know big four companies in the taxation department? So Deloitte is available, KPMG is available, EC is available. There is another company. These four companies are big four auditing companies in the software industry, not only in India, even worldwide. These are top four companies in the auditing market. So income tax department, auditing department, these are the top four companies. We have done the project for US client. That is a government project. Development, we are responsible. UAT, KPMG responsible. In the market, Deloitte, KPMG are competitors. In the big four in the auditing world, Deloitte, KPMG are the competitors. Development, we are doing. Testing, KPMG is doing. What KPMG people will try? What KPMG people will try? They will try to find as many bugs as possible. They want to prove that Deloitte is not better than KPMG. Yes or no? Because these are competitors, right? Client has planned effectively. Development for Deloitte, testing for KPMG. KPMG people will try to prove that Deloitte is not good when compared with the KPMG. What we need to prove? We are better than the K. That's where the fighting will happen. Quality will be there for the project. Quality will be there. So we need to give the best code. We need to give the bug-free code. We need to challenge. Hey KPMG, our developers are writing the code. If possible, find out the bug. What KPMG people will do? We found the bugs. Your developers are not good. So we will say your testers, that fighting will happen. So when the UAT is happening in the different company, every day fighting will happen between two companies. Because every day morning, there will be a meeting called triage meeting. Every day morning, there will be a meeting called triage meeting. Triage meeting means it is called bug triage meeting. Bug triage meeting means they will identify some bugs. They will tell that in this functionality, this bug is available. We will join. We will tell that this is not a bug. This is expected functionality. Go through FDD and read the FDD document. Then they will open the FDD. They will read that. Then we will identify is the mistake is from our side or mistake is from their side. If a mistake is from our side, it is a black mark for the Deloitte company because our development is not having the quality. Other company people are finding the bugs in our code. So directly we will give to the UAT or we need to do the very good testing for the project. We need to do very good testing for the project. Otherwise, they will find the bugs in the UAT. When they find the bugs in the UAT, what client will think? Deloitte people does not have the proper coding standard. Quality is not there. Tomorrow, when the client having a new project, he will give to Deloitte or he will go to KPMG. Client business, right? So that is the reason we need to fight for the quality. Then only we can survive in the market, especially. So that is the reason we need to be very careful when the UAT is happening for the project. If the company project is going for the UAT, everybody will be very, very serious, because if any bug comes in the UAT, then हमारा जान ले लेगा. So they will find out who is the developer, who is the tester, why this bug is not identified in our testing. Developer, why you have done this mistake? Now it is reported in the UAT environment. How do you answer to the client? So we need to be very careful. That's why a separate environment will be available to test our application. So as of now, there are three environments available. One is called dev environment. Second one is called, yes, sir, we started with the profiles concept. Why we are talking all this stuff? What is our agenda for today? Then what we are learning? What we are learning? Do you think that we deviated? Without this knowledge, you can't understand the profiles. Without this knowledge, you can't understand the profile. Whatever we are trying to learn now, what is environment, how many environments will be available. So we will understand profiles based on this knowledge. Okay, good. So what is environment? What is environment? Environments are used to test our application. What is the meaning of environment? A platform to run our application. Now here, local environment will be available. What is the local environment? Where we will develop code and do unit test. Where we will develop code and perform unit test. So you will get one laptop from the company. In that laptop, you will write the code and you will test that code is working or not. That is called your local environment. Then we will be having one more environment called dev environment. What is the meaning of dev environment? What is the meaning of dev environment? Dev environment is nothing but developers will perform integration testing. All the developers code will be integrated at one place. All the developers code will be integrated one place, and we are going to test that code is working as expected or not. So that is a dev environment. You can play with the dev environment. You can play with the dev environment because it is for testing purpose only. You can insert the data, update the data, delete the data, retrieve the data. All the operations you can perform in the dev environment. So whatever the testing we are doing in the dev environment, that is called DIT, developer integration testing. Once the developer integration testing is completed, then we will go for SIT environment. What is the meaning of SIT environment? Software system integration testing. So we are going to perform system integration testing. So what is the meaning of system integration testing? All the code, whatever we have developed, is it working as expected or not? Testers are going to test that functionality. That is called system integration testing. So for the dev environment, for the SIT environment, servers will be different, systems will be different, databases will be different. Okay guys, fine. Once our SIT testing is completed, what is the next environment? What is the next environment? The next environment is the UAT environment. What is the meaning of UAT environment? What is the meaning of UAT environment? That is a client environment, nothing but user acceptance testing, which is called user acceptance testing. Client is going to test our application working as expected or not. When the client is testing our application, same server or different server? Same database or different database? Different database will be available. When the UAT is completed, client will confirm go or no go. Go or no go. What is the meaning of go? Go for the live. No go means stop, because project does not have the quality. Some functionalities are not working. Go means go for live. Deploy the project to the server, deliver that. then bill will come from the client to the company, money will come. If it is a no go, no quality in the project, client is not going to accept it. Got it? Then once the UAT completed, luckily, if you get the go approval from the client, then our project will go to prod environment. Our project will go to production environment. Production environment is nothing but live environment. So if UAT completed successfully, then a client will confirm that this project should be deployed to the production. Production deployment nothing but live deployment. So once you deploy your project to the production, then end user can access your project. We are accessing Gmail, it is in the production. Facebook, IRCTC, Passport, YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp. All these applications we are accessing, they are running in the production environment. Production environment is nothing but live environment. Production environment is nothing but live environment. Are you guys clear with this? So here, when we are working on the project, multiple environments will be available for the project. What is the meaning of a environment? Come on. What is the meaning of environment? Environment means it is a platform to run our application. What are the common environments for every project? Local. Every developer will have their own environment to do the coding part. Then in the local, we will write the code and we will do unit testing, and we will have dev environment. What is the meaning of a dev environment? Developers will perform integration testing, which is called DIT. So already we tested in our system now. Why we need to test in the dev environment? Whatever the code we are writing, we are testing in our system. Why we need to test that code in the DIT again? Huh? In our system, only our code will be tested. In the dev environment, all the code will be integrated. Then test it, your code is working as expected or not in the dev environment. Then what is SIT environment? Who will use the SIT environment? Testing team will use SIT environment to perform system integration testing. What is UAT environment? User acceptance testing. It is used for go or no go. Then prod environment. What is the meaning of prod environment? Production. That is called live environment. When the project will go to the production, if we get the go approval from the client, then only it will go for the production. Very good. Now our application should be deployed into multiple environments. Our application should deploy the code into multiple environments. Now let us see. Here, assume that our code is available. Our application, Spring Boot application. Our Spring Boot application. So this application should be deployed in the dev environment. This application should be deployed in the dev environment. This application should be deployed in the SIT environment. This application should be deployed into UAT environment. And sometimes there will be one more environment called pilot environment. Before production, performance testing will done for the project in the pilot environment. Then at the last, the project will go to production environment. Dev, SIT, UAT, pilot, and production. Like this, we will be having multiple environments for our application. Dev environment, SIT environment, UAT environment, pilot environment, prod environment. Who is responsible to deploy our application to these many environments? Developers are responsible or DevOps people are responsible? DevOps people are responsible to deploy our application to these many environments. So here we will be having ops team. Okay, ops team should take our code. They need to package our code. They need to deploy our code to dev environment, and deploy our code to SIT, deploy our code to UAT, pilot and prod. So this deployment part will be taken care by operations team in the project. Deployment process will be taken care by operations team in the project. So same code we will run in our system, we will test it. Same code will be deployed to dev environment to perform developer testing. Same code will be deployed to SIT environment so that testers can test it. Same code will go to UAT, client will test it. Same code will go to pilot, performance testing will happen. Same code will go to production, end user will access that. When our application completed, before going to the production, there are lot of environments are available. Before our application going to the production, there are lot of environments are available for our application. For all the environments, database properties are same, database properties are different. Every environment will have separate Oracle only, but the credentials of the database will be different. So database instances will be different. DevDB, SITDB, UATDB, PilotDB, ProdDB, username password will be different. Database to database, username and password will be different. Are you clear? Now, here, when we want to deploy our project to the production, directly code will not go to the production. First code will go to dev environment, testing will happen. Then code will go to SIT, testing will happen. Then code will go to UAT, testing will happen. Code will go to pilot, testing will happen. If everything is smooth, then only that code will go to production, then end user will access. When our code is running in the dev environment, for the dev environment, separate database will be available. So this is called DevDB. This is called SITDB, UATDB, PilotDB, ProdDB. So our application should connect with the DevDB, SITDB, UATDB, PilotDB, and ProdDB. So that means when environment is changed, database properties will change. So what the DevOps people has to perform when they are deploying the code into the dev environment, they need to configure devdb password. Okay, and the URL will be different. When they are deploying the code to the SIT, then what they need to do? SITDB. When they are going for the UAT, what they need to do? For production. So what is the meaning of that? This is the problem. Now you understand what is the problem. When my application deployment happening in the particular environment, we need to change our data source properties. I want to now, currently it is deploying to dev environment. Dev database credentials I have given. Dev testing is completed. Now, same code I want to test in the SIT environment. So what we need to do? Can I deploy as it is? What we need to do? We need to change database credentials and we need to package once again. So if I change database properties, again I need to compile, package and deploy. Done. I want to go for UAT now. I want to go for UAT deployment now. Again we need to change the database properties and deploy. I want to go for pilot. Again change the properties. I want to go for production. What is the problem? You understand what is the problem now? What is the problem? When we want to test our application in the multiple environments, then what is the problem? Come on, guys. When we want to test our application in the multiple environments, then what is the problem? When you want to deploy your application into multiple environments, every time we need to change application.properties file. Who will change that? Developers or testers or DevOps engineers? DevOps engineer. DevOps engineers who don't know what is this properties file. If you give some extra space here, they don't know importance of this file, right? They are not the coding background people. they are the operations people. They will go to this file. They want to configure the database properties. They want to deploy the code to SIT environment. Then what they will do? SIT DB username, by mistake some space. Then what will happen? Our project cannot start because username is incorrect for the database. So every day the project deployment will happen 10 to 15 times. Project deployment will happen 10 to 15 times. So 10 to 15 times they need to go to the properties file and they need to change the database properties. So it is a time taking process, and whenever they're changing the properties manually, there is a chance of doing some mistake. If they do some mistake in the properties file, our application cannot start properly. So to overcome this problem, we are going for profiles concept. Simply I can tell you, profile is used to maintain environment specific properties. One line answer. Spring profile to maintain environment specific configuration. Why we need to maintain environment specific configuration? You will get the doubt. So that's the reason. First I have explained what is the problem, then what is the solution. So in the real time, application will be deployed with multiple environments. Environment to environment, database properties will be different. When you want to deploy your application to one environment, you need to change the database properties to that environment specific properties, and you need to deploy the project. Daily I want to deploy 10 times into multiple environments. So every time I need to go to the properties file and I need to change the properties manually. It is a time taking process and there is a chance of doing some mistakes also. Are you getting my point? And here, as of now, we know about only database properties. Tomorrow, Kafka properties will be available. Redis properties will be available. Zookeeper properties will be available. Third-party APIs, endpoint URLs will be available. Assume that there are 100 properties are going to change from environment to environment. Then currently we need to change only username, password and URL because in our project only database is available. Tomorrow in my project I am going to use Kafka. Tomorrow in my project I am going to use Kafka and I am going to use Redis and I am going to use payment gateway. I am going to use payment gateway and I will use third party REST APIs. Third-party REST API endpoint will be available. All these properties will change from dev environment Kafka server, SIT Kafka server will be different. Dev environment payment gateway, SIT payment gateway will be different. Dev environment Redis server, SIT Redis server will be different. Dev environment third-party endpoint URL, SIT third-party endpoint URL different. So there are 100 properties available which are going to change from one environment to another environment. Then what is the problem? Come on. I want to deploy my code to dev environment. Then what I need to do? Go to properties file, configure dev database properties, configure dev Kafka properties, dev Redis properties, dev payment gateway, dev URL for the third party endpoint. Done. After half an hour, I want to deploy the code to SIT. Again, go to the properties file, change the properties of database, properties of Kafka, properties of Redis, properties of payment gateway, properties of third party API. After 1 hour, I want to deploy to UAT. Easy or difficult? If we have only 1 or 2, that is okay. But in the real time, 100 properties will be available from environment to environment. They are different. So when you are deploying your application from one environment to another environment, you need to change database properties, Kafka properties, Redis properties, payment gateway properties, third-party endpoint URLs, third-party REST API URLs. Third-party REST API URLs will be available. We need to change all those things. Who is going to do the deployment daily? Developer or DevOps people? DevOps people. Is there any chance of doing the mistake or not? There is a chance of doing the mistake. If you don't change all the properties properly, it will give incorrect data. Incorrect results will come. Testing cannot happen properly. So to avoid this problem, Spring Framework introduced a concept called profiles concept. By using profile, you can maintain environment specific configuration separately. We can maintain environment configuration separately. Okay, so you understood what is environment, why we need to go for environment, what are the challenges available when we want to deploy the code into environments. Yes, tell me, what is environment? Respond, guys. What is environment? What is environment? It is a platform which is used to run our application. So a platform means infrastructure will be available. Machine will be available to run the code. Database server will be available to store the data. So the computers which we are using, the servers which we are using is called one environment, right? So why we need environments? What is environment? Why we need environment? Environment means it is a platform which is used to run our application. Why we need environments? Before giving the project to the client, we have to test it properly. That's why we will use multiple environments. Can you tell your project environments? In the interview, they will ask this question. What environments available for your project? Did anyone ask you what they asked? They asked profile concept in the interview. Fresher or experience? How many years? For which company? Infosys with 4 years. How was the interview? Good. Real-time scenarios. Okay. Good. If you attend, now see, he attended the interview with the 4 years experience. He got 10 to 15 questions which they are asking in the interview. So whenever you are studying, there is a chance to forget the concept. But if you attend the interview, if they ask the question, if you are not able to answer, lifelong you will not forget that question. Yes or no? You attended one interview, they asked one question, you are not able to answer. After 3-4 years also, you will not forget that question. So that is the benefit of attending the interviews. So interview experience is very, very, very important, guys. So in the first interview itself, you will not get the job. You may take up to 10 interviews also. If you attend 10 interviews, 10 into 20, 200 interview questions you will know. Then you can write a book, how to attend Java interviews. Yes or no? Huh. If you know 200 interview questions, when you go for the new company, when you, have you seen a movie called Dil? In Telugu movie, Dil movie is available. First one person will go for the interview. They will ask some questions. Then Venu Madhav will know that questions. He will go for the interview. You want to ask the question, or if I tell the answer, you will ask the question. In Dil movie, that comedy scene is available in Telugu. So if you know 100 interview questions, then what will happen? Tomorrow when you go for interview, do you want to start or you want me to start? Because you know question paper. You know the question paper. What he is going to ask, you can guess now. Because you already know 200 questions, what they are asking in the different companies. When you go for the 11th company, repeat it. So you can tell, hey, you want to start or you want me to start? You can challenge them. And yesterday, one person called me. He's my previous batch student. He's from UP. He's from UP. Now, 2 days back, he attended one interview in the Bangalore. By looking at the resume, that person asked that guy, are you from Ashok IT? Because 3 years experience, he kept 20 tools with the insurance project. Whatever the project we explained, the person, by looking at the resume, they identified that this person is from Ashok IT. पता चल गया fake experience, but still that person selected in that interview. The reason is, even though he is having fake experience, but he know the subject, he is having the content, he can work in the project. That person 100% pakka, he knows that he's from Ashok IT, because our tools, our project, what we are going to mention, people can recognize. But even though the person who is taking the interview knows that he is a fake person coming from the Ashok IT Institute, but still he promoted to the next round. The reason? Content. The quality is there in the subject. So that is what. If you prepare properly, then you can get selected. So that person yesterday called me. Sir, I have been to interview in the Bangalore. Within 5 minutes, they asked me, are you from Ashok IT? What is the meaning of that? The person who is taking the interview, he is also Ashok IT student. Then only he will know that, right? What are our tools? What is our project? What is our content? Maybe he is my student in the 2017 or 18. Now he got 5 to 6 years of experience. Now he is taking the interviews in the company. Good. So we are trying to understand what is environment. What is environment? Environment nothing but a platform. Environment nothing but a platform which is used to run our application. Servers will be available, databases will be available. That is called platform. Why we need environments? In order to test our application thoroughly. Before giving the project to the client, we have to test our project is working as expected or not. Good. Then can you tell what are the environments available in your project? Dev environment, SIT, UAT, pilot, production. These are the common environments for every project in the real time. What is the meaning of dev environment? All the developers will integrate the code and will deploy, will test it. It will connect to dev database. What is SIT environment? System integration testing environment. So again, separate database, separate server will be available. Application will be deployed to the SIT. Testers are going to test it. What is UAT? User acceptance testing. So we will give the project to the client for the testing purpose to take the decision, go or no go. Go means production accepted. No go means production not accepted. Some companies will use pilot environment. Before deploying the code to the production, they will do performance testing in the pilot environment. Pilot environment is also called as pre-prod environment. Pilot is called as pre-prod. Before production, we will go for the pre-prod environment. Then once everything is smooth, then we will go for production environment. Production environment nothing but live environment. Now, what are environment specific properties? What are environment specific properties? So nothing but from environment to environment, some properties will be different. What properties will be different from environment to environment? Data source properties, DevDB credential, SITDB credentials will be different. Database, data source properties will be different. That is the first point. What is the second point? Kafka. Kafka properties will be different. Kafka servers will be different. Then Redis servers will be different. Then payment gateway servers will be different. Payment gateway properties will be different. Then third-party endpoint URLs, third-party APIs, endpoint URLs will be different from environment to environment. Now, if I want to deploy my project into multiple environments, every time I need to change all these properties in the properties file. It is a time-taking process and there is a chance of doing the mistake also. To overcome these problems, we are going to use Spring Profiles concept. So by using Spring Profiles concept, we can maintain separate properties file for every environment. As of now, how many properties files available? As of now, how many properties files are available? Currently, we are having only one properties file. So every time when I want to deploy the code to the particular environment, I need to change that properties file. Changing that properties file every time. If there are 100 properties, I need 1 hour of time to change the properties. Then up 1 hour, I changed properties, I deployed in the dev environment. Immediately, we got the request, deploy the code to SIT. Again, it will take 1 hour to change all the properties, deploy to SIT. When I deploy the code to SIT, there is a problem, code changed. Again, I need to deploy to the dev environment. Again, change the 100 properties. Then testing completed in the dev. Go for SIT. Again, 1 hour. So to do the deployment into 2 environments, it is taking 4 hours of time. And that too, 1 hour time it is taking. Is there any chance of doing mistakes? By mistake, if you configure wrong URL, your application running in one environment will connect to the wrong database. So by mistake, if you forgot to change the URL of the database, we are deploying in the SIT, you forgot to change the URL. The application running in the SIT will connect with the database available in the dev environment. Incorrect data will be available. Testers will say that I have inserted one record is not coming. Okay, because the database is changed. So that's why we need to be very careful when we are working with application deployment process in multiple environments. So if you maintain single properties file, there is a chance of doing the mistake, and it is time taking process to change all the properties in all the environments. So to avoid this problem, we are going to use a concept called profiles concept in the Spring. What is environment? Why we need environment? And what are the environments available in your application? What environments available? Dev, sit, UAT, pilot, prod. This SIT is sometimes called as QA also. Some people will call it as SIT. Some people will call it as a QA environment. Okay. Now, environment specific properties. When we have multiple environments, every time when we have multiple environments, we have to change above properties in application.properties file, application.properties file when we are deploying code to particular environment. Okay, when we have multiple environments, we have to change above properties in the properties file when we are deploying code to particular environment. Time taking process, risky, right? It is going to take a lot of time and it is risk also. If you do some mistake, the project will not start properly. To avoid these problems, we are going to use Spring Profiles concept. To avoid this problem, we can use Spring Profiles concept. You got my point? What is profile in the Spring now? To maintain environment specific properties. So what we do is, in the project, as of now, we are creating only one file, which is called application.properties file. In this properties file, we are configuring everything. In this properties file, we are configuring everything. What is the problem with that file? If I have only one file, then what is the problem, guys? Every time we need to change the properties when we are deploying the code to particular environment. So what is the challenge here? It will take time and there is a chance of doing the mistake. To avoid that problem, what we do is, instead of creating one file, we are going to create multiple files. Application-dev.properties. What is that? Application-dev.properties. What will be there in the dev.properties file? Dev environment related configuration will be available. Similarly, we will be having one more file called application-sit.properties. Similarly, application-uat.properties. Similarly, application-prod.properties. UAT, prod, pilot, like that. Instead of creating one properties file in the project, we are going to create multiple property files in the project. In every properties file, that environment specific configuration we are going to do. Application-dev.properties will contain only dev environment properties. UAT will contain UAT properties. SIT will contain SIT properties. Are you getting my point? Now, if I have the properties file like this, what is the advantage for us? If I have properties file like this, what is the advantage for us, guys? Tomorrow, when I want to deploy my code to dev environment, do I need to change all the properties, or dev properties are already separated? Dev properties are already separated. SIT properties are separated. UAT is separated. Production supported. Environment specific properties will create in the separate file. Application-dev. Dev is the profile name. SIT profile name. UAT profile name. Production profile name. Now, what I will do is, in my main properties file, I'm going to specify profiles.active is equal to dev. So in the main properties file, what I'm going to specify, profiles.active is equal to dev. What is the meaning of that? When our application is starting, it should load the dev properties file. That is the meaning of that. Tomorrow, when I am deploying my code to SIT, what I will do? Active is equal to SIT. Then what our application will do? It will load the data from the SIT properties file. I want to deploy the code to UAT. How much time? In one fraction of second, I will change to UAT and I will deploy my application. So for every environment, a separate properties file we are going to create. Those are called profiles. Those are called profiles. Profiles are used to maintain environment specific configuration. Profiles are used to maintain environment specific configuration. When there are multiple profiles in the application, which profile our application should load, we need to activate that profile. So how do we activate? In the main properties file, I will set spring.profiles.active is equal to dev. Then our application will load dev properties file and it will load the dev related properties information. If I want to deploy my code to SIT environment, then I will activate SIT profile. Then it will load SIT properties file. Okay, so whatever the name you are giving after the hyphen, that is called profile name. That profile name you need to activate here. Then application will load that particular properties file based on the profile name to start the project. Are you getting my point? What is the profile? What is the profile? Profile is used to maintain environment specific configuration. Which profile our application should load, we are going to activate that profile. Suppose if I have 4 environments, how many property files I will create? 4 profile properties file, 1 main properties file will be available. So we have application.properties, which is the main file. Then for every environment, separate profile will be created. Which profile should be loaded by the application, we will activate that in the main properties file. Tomorrow, when the DevOps engineer want to deploy the code to dev environment, what he will do? Just activate the profile name. Then application will load that configuration. He want to deploy to SIT. How much time? Within 1 second, change the profile name and deploy. I want to deploy to UAT. Change the profile name. Deploy. I want to go back. I want to go to production. Change the profile name. Deploy. So these profiles will save lot of time. When we want to deploy our application into multiple environments, these profiles are going to save lot of time. And is there any risk available? No. Why? I'm not changing 100 properties. I'm changing only one property. So when I change one property, easy for me and I will not do any mistake also. But if I'm changing 100 properties multiple times, chance of doing, will get irritated, right? अरे ये क्या भाई बार बार चेंज करना पड़ेगा. URL, username, password, Kafka, Redis, payment gateway, third party API. So irritation. we will get irritation. We will lose our patience also sometimes when we are doing the same work again and again. So to simplify that process, we are going to use Spring profiles to maintain environment specific configuration. And which profile our application should load, we will activate that in the main properties file. Okay, you understand? Now you understood why I explained about environments before coming to profiles topic. If you want to understand profiles, first you need to understand what is environment, what is the problem with the deployment process when we have multiple environments. Every environment will have its own properties. So changing the properties from one environment to another environment every time taking, risky. To avoid that problem, use profiles. By using profiles, environment specific properties we can create. So which profile our application should load depends on the profile we activate. Are you getting my point? Good. Any questions? It's not mandatory to give the only dev. You can give ABC also. Profile name can be anything. Whatever the name that you are giving for the properties file here, right? Here application -dev I have given. This is to readability. Suppose if I give as 1, then activate is equal to 1. Like this you can manage it. Not required. You just need to give only profile name. Profile name will be considered whatever you write after the hyphen. That is called profile name. So generally people will write the name as dev sit UAT, something like that. So if my profile name is a dev, how do I activate the dev profile? DEV. Suppose here instead of SIT, if I give my profile name as a QA, then how do I activate the QA profile? Activate is equal to QA. Then it will identify the profile with the QA. It will load that file into our server. Our application will load those properties from the QA file. Got it? Now, task. You understand the profiles? Requirement. Every day backlog is increasing. What is the meaning of backlog? Pending items. Develop data JPA application with profiles. So I want you to create 2 profiles. One is dev and QA. Okay, dev and QA. Dev profile you configure with H2DB. Okay, QA profile you configure with MySQL DB. Now, so insert record into table by changing the profiles. If I activate dev profile, record should be inserted to H2 database. If I activate QA profile, record should be inserted to MySQL database. Can you try this? So you need to create 2 profiles and you need to activate the profiles. So when in the dev profile configure H2 database, in the QA profile configure MySQL database. So at the time of running the project, you activate dev profile and see record inserted to H2 or not. Activate QA and see record inserted to MySQL database or not. This is the task for today for practice. So I don't have time to develop the project. So tomorrow I will do that. So I want you to try before coming to tomorrow's session, working with the profiles in the Spring Boot. Got it? Yes. Any questions, anyone? Sorry? Alpha testing. So testing application with all the requirements. That is one method of alpha testing, beta testing, white box testing, black box testing. So we'll discuss in the project. What are the stages of the testing in the project? Yeah, next one. Any questions, anyone? Anybody having any question? You can configure. Yeah, in the real time, every environment will have different database. Different database means in the dev MySQL, in the prod Oracle, not like that. Different database means same server, but multiple instances will be available. Credentials will be different. Okay. In the MySQL, we are using create a DB name. Like that, you can create multiple DBs. Yes, you can do that. Got it? Any questions? Online people, any questions, guys? Online students, can you unmute your mic? Listen to the questions, guys.
Hi Ashok, funny here.
Yeah, hi.
You are starting the project batch in the 6 o'clock, right? We are unable to join, but is there any chance to start the new batch for the morning session in
Java
coming days?
real-time project morning session batch will not come after 3 months of time. For next 3 months, my slot is not available for morning project batch. So evening 6 p.m. batch is available. Anybody
Okay.
cannot join for 6 p.m. So better to go with the recorded sessions, or else you have to wait for next 3 months. Because my next batch for the 9 a.m. will be DevOps with AWS. So there are people
Okay.
from last 3 months waiting for the DevOps batch. So 9 o'clock,
Okay.
my JRTP batch will complete by this month end. In the January, my new batch for DevOps with AWS will come at 9 o'clock.
Okay,
JRTP
Ashok, we'll
morning
check
batch
with.
started at 6 p.m.
Yeah, we'll check with the admin
Yeah,
team then.
please. Next question. Anyone?
So, Ashok, do we have to maintain the profile files name as the same, or we can just
Yeah,
configure
profile,
this?
as I told you, right? Profile name, you no need to give exactly like dev QA or something like that. You can give any name, but if you give the profile name as environment name, that will give the readability for your application. Okay,
No,
I
so
can give.
I'm just asking about the whole file name instead of just application or
No, you cannot change that name. You need to give the name as application only. After the hyphen, you can give any name for the profile.
Okay, and my second question is when the
Yeah, 1 minute,
actual
sir. He's asking a question. Good question. Do I need to maintain the same naming convention, or can I change the name of the file? You cannot change the file name. Application, you can't change that. You need to keep application only. After the hyphen, you can give any name. That is called your profile name. Whatever the name you are giving for the profile, same name you need to configure here also. Okay, good. Next.
and my second question is when actually IOC will identify to load the profiles at which stage?
At the time of application startup. Tomorrow we will see the example. Whenever you start your boot application, listen to that. He's asking a question. How IOC container will know that which profile it has to load? When it will identify that? When our project is getting started, as part of auto configuration, Spring Boot will read the properties file. In the properties file, it will understand which profile is activated. Based on that, it is going to load the information from that particular profile. So it will happen at the time of a project startup. As part of Spring Boot application bootstrapping process, it will load the profile.
Good morning, sir. Sir,
Yeah, hi, good morning.
What is pilot environment?
Pilot environment, nothing but pre-production environment, sir. So once UAT completed, how our application will be executed in the production with the load balancer and all, we are going to test it in the pilot environment.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can the class start at 6:30 p.m., sir, for GRTB batch? Because you need to come from the office, sir.
Okay, sir, we will try. As of now,
Okay.
I announced it at 6 o'clock. If possible, I will make it to 6:30. Okay, I will try that,
Okay.
but not
Okay,
now.
sir.
I will see.
Okay, sir.
And
Thank you, sir.
next question.
Hi, Ashok.
हाँ भाई बोलो.
Hello. Yeah. Can we make it this as dynamically? Why? Because every time we need to
Yes,
change
sir.
the properties.
Good question. He's asking, listen to the questions. He's asking that you are activating the profile in the properties file. When we want to change it, we need to modify the properties file, right? So instead of modifying that manually, can we do automation that? Without changing the properties file, can we activate the particular profile? Yes, sir. You can do that automation also. Without changing the profile name, we can load that particular profile by using VM argument. Tomorrow I will show you.
Oh, yeah.
That is possible. In the real time, we don't do that change manually. So we will change it dynamically. Yep. Next question.
Ashok, in our project, we will develop in UAT and we'll move to CAC, then we'll move to live. So you told, but UAT is, you told it is the final enrollment, right?
Not final, man. It depends on the company. What are the final
Hmm.
environment? What will happen? What are the environments? What is the flow? Management will decide that.
Yeah, Ashok, we can follow the same structure in the config server as well.
Yes, sir. Config server we will use. In the microservices, we are going to learn the config server.
Okay. No, structure is same, right?
Yeah, structure is same.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
Fine. Good, guys. So with this, I'm stopping for today. We'll meet again in the tomorrow session. So please do the practice on the 9 tasks I have given. Okay. Don't keep the backlog. Try to work and complete those tasks before coming to tomorrow's session, because from next week you will be very busy with the morning session practice and evening session practice. So you need to complete all these backlogs. From the next week, tools are going to start. You need to practice the tools also. You will not get much time for that. So that's why please complete all the practice by this week only. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.